Well, guys, so we're going to continue the hot pursuit conversation because even though we're talking about this title, should you buy a house during a recession? Here's my. Can I rant up front?
Yeah.
You're like, don't you always? Yeah, thank you for filling in the blanks. Wow, man. I bet you and our Mad Libs would say the exact same thing. It's finishing each other's sentences. Okay, never mind. So we're not in a recession. A recession is not on the horizon. I think there's a lot of fear-mongering happening, and I'm going to call, yet again, bullshit, because back when there was a recession by 2 consecutive negative quarters of GDP in 2022, y'all said nothing. You said absolutely nothing. What you did is you changed the definition to mean something you wanted it to cover the administration's ass. So now let's talk about this article. So back in 2022, the quarter one GDP was negative 1.6. In 2022, the quarter two GDP was negative 0.9. No one called a recession. Everyone went to rush to cover, and you all tried to redefine what a recession is. And by saying it's not the traditional, but it is kind of the metric that everyone looks at. Yeah. And now we do not have one consecutive quarter of negative GDP, nor do we have 2, nor do we have 3, nor does it look like it's on the horizon, and you're already saying this. So I don't know what gives. Let's talk about whether people should buy a house during a recession or not, because I'm going to say you do it because you need to or want to, regardless of what the economy's red flashing warning signs are, because these people are not on your side. They're not on your side of telling you what you need to know to advance and take ground and take territory of the thing you're hoping to have. If they're willing to lie to you before and lie to you now, they're not on your side. Number one. Number two, if you want it, talk to Memo, talk to Brian, and then go get it done. Do you guys want to continue talking about this?
Honestly, I don't even know if I could say anything like that. Thank you guys so much for coming. Passionate. We'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.
Let's go to the 40-40, okay?
Okay.
We're going back to that.
Let's go.
But
hit me.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, with all these headlines and everything that's going on with the whole, Jerome Powell getting fired, not getting fired, the whole tariffs with China, now that being put on pause, it just creates this whole this unbalance. This uncertainty out there, the pressure on bonds, people not buying it, devaluation of our dollar, it just brings concern. It just gets people on the fence like, oh God, if that was taking a foot forward, they're going to take 2 steps back now because they really want to get everything analyzed. And when you're reading this and not really looking at the data, one thing we were taught, right, Brian, is look at the data.
Yeah, look at the data.
The data will say everything.
I just recently started looking at it and my life changed.
Yes. And it does. It just creates this, okay, I see that. And you have to pay more attention, even though before I did have investments, I wouldn't pay attention to it. But now that I'm trying to help my clients become investors, I want to pay more attention to the data. And because I'm also building and we're doing things, we also want to make sure that we understand that data to make a informative decision whether or not we move forward with that investment. Because everything matters. You have to pay attention to everything, and so, buying a home in certain areas, you have to learn to categorize it, your A, B, C, and D, just like they did, like where the housing market is going, where they're building and stuff like we talked about earlier. That's what you have to do also for your rental when you're building, when you're buying. You have to look at this, what's going to happen down the future, whether I buy this and keep my family in here. Is it going to rent out if I decide to keep it? And what's the likelihood of that even renting? Obviously, if you're in like a C- area, it's going to be very difficult to do that. So you also want to make that higher expense to be in that B area where now it makes it, okay, it's going to make it more lucrative for me. One, the appreciation is going to be there. Second, I have an exit strategy. If I want to keep it, I can rent it out. It's just going to make more sense. And the schools, I'm sure they're going to be a lot better.
Yeah. So no, I definitely agree that we have to pay close attention to those small details because you are making that big investment. You could potentially, make or break your life depending on where you choose to live. I think one of the things that is very important to just, take from this as well is that can we control the way the economy is going to go? No, exactly. So don't even worry about, what big economy is doing. Worry about what your economy is doing, what your life is like, what you can control. If your job has steadiness, is there going to be, opportunities for you to, level up in that field? Or, how is it that you're going to make yourself bulletproof to certain situations? And even though you don't have control over everything, at least you could plan for yourself, put yourself in a situation that, it's going to allow you to win, utilizing all this data and information. Now, if you don't choose to do that, I mean, you're also setting yourself up to, be a statistic of all this information that we're digesting as well.
On the wrong side of the stat?
Yeah, exactly. So it's like you have the ability to be able to guide these waters, whether you take that option or not. It's completely up to you.
Yeah.
But the one thing I know that I'm very certain on is that I can't control what Jerome Powell is going to go up and say. I can't control what Donald Trump is going to say out of his mouth, nor what the economy and the markets are going to do. What I can control is my energy, my habits, my way of spending, my budgeting. All those things will play a big part when things like this is happening in the big world. Your small world won't feel as small.
Great point.
So, I know I started this off with like a heavy rant. My hair fell off and I'm sweating. But my concern is that this dissuades people from doing something that they should be doing for their life if they want to, because they're letting someone who doesn't know them, doesn't know their scenario, doesn't know their situation, weigh in on their mentality and behavior of what they should do. Now, if you're a mature person, I know this may not be your problem. But for some people, look, they get dissuaded by what they see and they read. So when things like this are shared and we're craftily moved to a new focus point and off of the thing we were being told for a long time, some people don't forget. And I'm pointing at myself. Like, I remember the word soft landing being used for a long time.
A long time.
Remember the word soft landing or the term soft landing?
Hard to forget.
Right? Remember easing in the labor market?
Yeah.
Remember that? How about securing price stability? All these things the Fed had said they needed to do and were going to do, and that was a rationale and reasoning for ticking up rates and then leaving rates. And then they conveniently, all their dot plot charts have not that they've gone missing on the internet, but man, they're really hard to find. They're really hard to find because their projections were that by this time in 2025, we'd be in like the threes, not where we're at in the 4 and 4 1/4. So even their like future casting predictions saw us being in a different place, and they conveniently don't bring that up. And so the it's not just these sets of challenges I'm having with the article title relative to what people want to do, relative to what we've been said and told, or now aren't being said and communicated because they can't go and claim a victory lap on these things.
Yeah.
The soft landing didn't happen. What they did is they took us to a new elevation in the plane and it stayed there. So this whole landing didn't really occur when it comes to price of goods and services.
Yeah.
And this isn't an eggs conversation or anything like that. But what will happen, and I think is already starting to like take root, is people have forgotten. People have forgotten. Amnesia. People have forgotten what things cost in 2019.
Yeah. People
have forgotten what they cost in 2020 or 2021. And they just see, oh, this rise has happened, which is like a rise up and it's like set now.
Yeah.
Because where we saw a 40% increase in things, they can still take a 10% dip and they're still way higher than where they were. And so that's why the whole claim of soft landing, that's dead. That's been dead for months.
So incorrect.
And and then the argument that we're going to be in a recession at the same time that there's things that are happening that are going to spur growth locally in our nation and in our local economies, I don't get the argument. And so this is why my general sense here is like, just ignore this. Like, well, you brought it up. You've been on your show. Yeah, I brought it on my show so I could show you guys. Ignore this. Ignore that they're going to tell you this and tell you that. You need to make your own decisions, and you need to make your own choices in your market to suit the needs of you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know who brought that article up. I should definitely do that again.
So here's the thing. I was looking this up when you guys were talking really quick because I wanted to make sure I got this number right. So the housing market experienced 11 consecutive months of declining sales throughout 2022, with December sales reaching an annualized rate of 4.02 million. That's the exact number that we're at right now. Now, that may be one of the reasons for saying that, but we're not on the way down to that. We're on the way up through it.
Yeah.
So you have two different force functions at that same critical juncture of 4.02 million annualized sales. And that is why I feel confident in my rant, if you will, that because we're on the way up through that season and not on our way down into it, I don't know that we're going to end up seeing a recession in 2025.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds, Andy, like all the data that we've been following against all the noise that these, big corporations, news outlets are saying aren't able to, connect, because one of them is coming from a place of feeling and emotion, while the other one is just straight numbers and data of things that have occurred.
It makes you wonder what the incentive is for them to tell the truth or to avoid the truth.
Leads to my next things that I was going to say. Is this done by design? Because now it's looking like, hey, we have this, we got that. And I know that's another rabbit hole that we can go into.
Like that's a whole different show.
But that just came in my mind as you were saying that. I was like, well, then is this done by design? Because it often looks like everything is just kind of lining up for the way that they want it to be.
But I'm going to tell you what, guys, it already feels like that with certain people because they do pay attention to these things. One of the things that they're putting on cons when the recession is they're saying stricter lending requirements. Have we not been seeing everything being nitpicked?
Yeah, but it's been like that though for a while. I know you're saying it's getting worse and it's getting more difficult. So I'm not arguing that point. I'm saying, but it's become that way. But there's also a fracture point or there's a tension that the banks need to lend money out to make money. So they have to have that happen where they'll lend it out. And again, I'm gonna go back to the housing thing. The housing agencies have been given an expectation to let lending happen, figure out how to get inventory in control up and how to get affordability in control. Yeah. So I hear you. I also think that there's an asterisk and we have something else coming that we don't know yet.
Yeah, well, I've been feeling it in the last month. I've been seeing it more stricter, and I think it's just because of everything that whole uncertainty with the bond market, the tariffs, all that stuff that I really think puts everybody in tense, puts underwriters in scrutiny because now they need to really read everything with a fine-tooth comb. It has to happen. We have to dot all the I's, and it's just something that we're seeing. So this being pointed out, I'm kind of feeling that. The other thing that feels right now with buyers feel like a commodity right now. And it has been, even though we're projected to sell 4.2 million homes this year, it feels like, hey, is a buyer ready? And now because they have more choices, a lot of times it's like, nope, I'm just going to cancel that one. This doesn't feel for me. So a lot of cancellations we're seeing. So some of these things bring up a good point, and it's just going to be because of the whole economic uncertainty. People do read into this. They don't understand data because a lot of us weren't trained to read data. We're just trained to read the headline. Whatever they're posting is true, right? So I feel like a lot of influence of reading these articles and this information or watching the news does influence people.
Right.
And so the best thing to do, and this is a lot of influence on the internet, watch the right people. If people are not providing the data, do not listen to them. Most people don't even know how to read the data, and you have to go to the right sources,
Yeah, if you're going to listen to other people's advice, you're going to get what they have. So if someone's going to listen to you and they bought a house in 2013, they're going to have the outcome that you've had right now too, right? And so if someone who sat on the sidelines and had their their butt on their hands and didn't do nothing, well, they're going to have that outcome. So who you listen to is important, and then the accuracy of the information is important, and even for us too. Like sometimes I misquote things or I misstate things. We do our best to go back to the comments and the description and correct whatever because we care about that. But I think it's the demeanor as well. It's the information, but it's also the demeanor of what is happening, because you have to be able to honestly step back and go, well, who's telling me the truth and who's withholding the truth from me? Why are they doing that? And also balancing how important is that for me to make my choice? Yeah. Do I care that CNBC is telling me the truth or lying to me? Do I care that MSNBC or CNN or whoever is telling me the truth? That doesn't change whether I'm trying to go buy a ranch. I'm going to go buy that thing whether they say I should or not.
No, it's very true. For me too, I mean, there's a lot of times that I doubt myself. I'm sure we all do, right? Like, is this even right? And should I do this? Because it you do feel that fear, like Brian mentioned earlier, but if you really look at, and we're so optimistic here. We're very optimistic. We're one of those where we pay attention. The best analogy I can use is, you have the front windshield with the rearview mirror. Once in a while you look at the rearview mirror just to make sure that nobody's going to freaking rear end you or anything like that. But the front windshield represents the future, and that's what we're so focused on. We're so focused on looking forward and being optimistic with this. If I go back to 2008, if I would have just maneuvered differently and I would have had the proper data, I would have kept all my properties. I would have found a better solution to get creative and figured out how to keep that. Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't understand that information, and therefore, most of my properties were lost. But even with that, now moving forward, I stuck it out and I said, let me just go into more investments. I'm going to continue doing this. If I would have been able to keep those properties that I lost at that time, I would have looked like a freaking superhero right now.
Yeah, I'm going to go with your term. Hindsight is 40/40.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. We got to just go take it to that next level is what it is.
Yeah, my last thoughts on this is that, there's so much information out there you can trust, but always self-verify. And the best answer you get from someone you trust isn't always the right answer you need for your situation. So just take that with the grain of salt, and make sure that you're getting your data from, sources or people that are doing what you want to do or are making it happen.
Yeah. So final thing for me on this article is a very famous quote by Wayne Gretzky, which I'm going to say to the best of my ability, which is, skate to where the puck is going, not where it's at. He was the leading scorer in all of NHL history until recently. I think Alex Ovechkin just surpassed his total goal scored in his career.
Wow.
But I actually used this analogy in a little class I was teaching the other day, and I was like, listen, when it comes to making content and video and conversations, it's kind of skate to where the puck is going. So where are we at right now in this time? Where's the puck going? And can I get in line with where that's headed? And so I'm saying the same thing here about this recession article. Sort it out, okay? You're going to find a lot of information online that completely conflicts with them saying, should you buy a house in a recession, okay? You're going to see a lot of actual data of the amount of people who have closed homes, and there's more in 24 than there was in 23. Or more, well, no, sorry, not more in 24. There's 25 than there was in 24. Yeah. And that's going to continue because of the pace and the aggressiveness that's happening with people getting prepared, getting seller concessions, getting price reductions in certain places. Look, people are figuring out ways to make it happen, and you're either going to make it happen or you're not. So skate where the puck is going.